This is the day we've all been waiting for, the day that we're actually going to introduce the worms into our worm tower. Before we introduce the worms, I'm going to make sure they're living in a comfortable environment. I'm going to give this a good soak. Our worms love a moist environment, almost soggy, not quite, slightly saturated. That's the environment that they're going to thrive in. I'm heading over to the farm. I'm going to grab a bucket of worms with their bedding. I was just thinking that you could actually wait for the worms to arrive, and they probably would. It might just take a little while, and that's why we're going to get some from my worm farm so I can get a good head start. Now, if you don't have worms yourself, just make sure that you get indigenous worms from a local source, because we're working with local materials. We want local worms to do the decomposition for us. Back at the worm tower on my farm, I'm going to pull some of this material aside, and I'm going to start collecting the worms, and there's lots of them in here. I'm collecting the worms along with their bedding and some of this decomposing material. Now the smell coming off here is not putrid. It's actually more like a fermenting odor, sweet and almost earthy. When you get worms from Local Harvest, you get a full bucket full of bedding, about 1,000 worms, some decomposing matter to make sure they get off to a good start. You can find that on our website at thelocalharvest.ca. 3 more things I need to gather. The first is biochar. The second, indigenous microorganisms. I'll explain that in just a sec. And third, some gritty material, sandy material for worm food. Fraser River sand mixed with wood chips. Indigenous microorganisms found in the leaves and the decomposing matter underneath these cottonwood trees. All right, I'm introducing the worms. Now a question for you, and maybe you could add this in the comments. Do you think these worms are going to escape? Like I explained earlier, we don't want to shock these worms. So we got a layer of leaves right on top of them, just at the first introduction, with indigenous microorganisms. Think about the species of bacteria, fungi, nematodes, protozoa, etc., that are actively working to break up the leaves that I found underneath the cottonwood trees. This is like a hotel for microbes, and we want them to self-check in. Next, the food, kitchen scraps. Next, with every introduction, just a light layer of biochar. You can get it in our market as well. A small layer of sand. Now, why sand? What do worms have that they share in common with birds? Okay, a light layer of decomposing wood chips with the cow bedding. And by the way, I forgot to mention this earlier, for the wood chips, you really do want to focus on deciduous softwood trees. Some coniferous is fine, some hardwood deciduous is fine, but mostly softwoods like willow, like cottonwood, and trees. It's hard to overwater. And the reason for that is because we're dealing with a lot of wood chips. We have a lot of porosity. When we get the heavy rains, put the lid on. You don't want to leach everything out, but take it off if you need to give them a soak, and you can use natural water. Worms love it dark, and one great way to keep them in the dark, keep the moisture in, is with a layer of cardboard. Try to introduce food once every week rather than in a continuous flow. And every time you add it, you're going to be doing about a 4-inch layer. You got the new food at the bottom, and then on top of that, you got a bit of biochar, a little bit of sand, maybe some leaves, and then some composted wood chips. And if you keep that up, there's a strong likelihood you're not even going to notice a level change, because the worms are actively eating and the compost is slowly decomposing. In the final segment, we're going to talk about winter care for our worms. We're going to talk a little more about how we keep the pest out, and finally, how to use this most excellent compost to build excellent soil in our gardens and to grow the most wonderful food organically, naturally, and working with nature, working with the indigenous microorganisms.